free means you liberate yourself from something that is there, which is a very interesting process. But then it's also about how do we want to communicate and to define rules or what we need to communicate in a way that it makes sense for us. I think this is what is nice to find out in every group. So everyone needs to, I want to communicate like this and I would suggest this rules, is welcome.
The most free improvisation I did was my entrance examination. And I came in this room and it was the jury, and they made a student from Basel enter the room and say, Maria, this is Augustin, this is Maria, please improvise 8 minutes. This moment where we had to discover the past of the other, then was in this sense very free.
I read an article mentioning this thing, so regarding the fact that it is always referred to freie Improvisation, free improvisation, but sometimes it can be really exactly the same thing. I believe it can be the same and it can also not be the same thing. It can be like tautological, it's the same thing. For example, the exercises we did before, when it's like free roaming, you just do whatever you think it's best, you communicate with your colleagues. Isn't that free? Should we call it free improvisation?
When we play with someone and we have the score written, sometimes we get lazy and we don't really listen. We look at what we need to play and we trust that the others are doing the same. But in improvisation, I think you remove the score, so we are a bit more naked, so we need to use this much more. So if we are not using this, then it's not very polite for the other person. So, and there can be moments where someone is really into what he or she is doing, very much, and it's fine. But if the whole piece is like this, then it's impossible to play with someone.
What we're doing as a group, it's something anarchic in the sense of everyone's responsible, everybody has to be respectful and coherent towards one another for the dynamic to work, while accepting contrasts and small conflicts and even enjoying them sometimes. If you play with the same people, which a lot of improvisers do, over several years, then also you don't talk with them, but you don't need to talk. It's like there are things that you're going to do with that group. You create a language over time.
For me, I'm coming from a classical education in saxophone, so I always focused on the sound of my saxophone. So for me, it's already now a bigger step to not only have the saxophone sound, but really go to find the strange sounds, which is really cool. And then I'm somehow searching a way I can make it visual. I think we can make it more exciting to show or play on just a thing. It doesn't have to be like art, or it could be everything, just a light or just a color. It makes the perception of music completely different.
I studied art before, and for me, like, the visual thing is sometimes first. Like, how does the instrument feel and look, and what does it represent somehow, and then I start thinking about the sound quality of it.
Something that always used to annoy me was if a spoon would fall on the floor, or some kind of object would fall on the floor, and it would take like 30 seconds before it stops moving. That used to annoy me. I don't know why. I was a nervous child, and that really changed for me when I learned how to take the time to listen to something and be like, that's actually really beautiful what's happening.
Sometimes I discover these kind of sounds playing like a kid with the objects or with the instruments. And sometimes I see videos where people use this kind of material, and I see possibilities for my instrument also.
You have to design your sound, craft them, look really careful as it was jewelry or something like that. Sometimes disconnected from other sounds. And then you get this thing that is in this side, that sounds, that's material, so to speak, which recalls this thing. It could be an image, it's something that, for me, in my side, is like kind of one thing I imagine that sometimes doesn't sound in the imagination. Sometimes there are awful noises that have something also, have something there.
Everyone's an anarchist, basically, in this scene. Like, it's what they want to go toward, and it's through improvisation that I've gotten into this kind of political mindset as well. I wasn't really thinking about that at all to begin with, but after a while, breaking out of the kind of classical idioms and stuff and wanting to do weird things with the instruments and stuff, I realized after like maybe 5 years or something like. But that is in a political, theoretical framework. It is what I'm doing.
That question is also very close to me. Like, how can I be free? It has to do with the mind, being open also for life, being open for life and everything that happens unexpected. And I'm learning this by playing music, but also being in situations where I freak out, and then I'm thinking, okay, how can I be calm, or how can I deal with the situation? And that also has to do with free improvisation.